for joining us today. We're so happy to have you for one part of our Conversation from Home series. Just for anyone who's viewing us, viewing the video today, let's introduce you guys. This is Chalkline, and today we have Vikesh. Vikesh, want to give us a little wave? Oh, it's
Hi.
Hi. There he is. And Sam on the other side. And there's Sam. Perfect. Great. Thank you so much. So we're going to just go straight into it. And for those who don't know, what is Chalkline? Who is Chalkline? And what sort of work do you guys aim to create or in general, produce?
Great. Yeah. Shall I jump in?
Yeah,
so Chalkline, we're like a Luton-based company, although we do lots of work in and out of London as well. And we're kind of like founded on the principle of all the work that we do is kind of like either community, charity, or just kind of socio-politically active. So we've done work that has raised like awareness of young male suicide, which was a show called Testament, which we did throughout 2019, beginning of 2018. Our like latest show is called the Nobodies, which like looks at the welfare of the NHS and like the kind of restlessness of the working classes in the north of England. And we've like partnered with amazing organizations like Common and Calm and Revolution Arts and Next Generation Youth Theatre. And we kind of like, alongside all of our shows, do lots of outreach where we kind of teach self-producing skills or marketing skills to working class artists, and we try and provide as much kind of free theatre opportunities to kids from kind of deprived backgrounds who otherwise wouldn't be able to come to the theatre. And yeah, we just kind of try and give a fair and equal voice to everyone. And make sure that we're telling stories that are politically relevant. Yeah, did you want to add anything to that, Vikesh?
Yeah, I think apart from kind of the themes being quite like relevant, we also try and push the boundaries of theatre as well. So we always try and tell stuff in a very theatrical way and in a playful way. Like me and Sam are not very keen on like just naturalism, and we always like to play around with style and form and challenge. So I think this is like the third show of Chalkline, and I think that's something that's common within them, and even going forward we'd like to even push those boundaries even more and be more playful and experimental in our approach as well.
It's so nice to hear like your company mission, sort of your ethos, or let's say a manifesto, is so clear when you sort of say it, and that's like such a wonderful sort of thing to hear. And we've seen your work, and we think it's again very, besides it being very relevant, so engaging. So that's a testament to, I guess, having a really solid team within you. How many people form part of the team within Chalkline?
So there's three of us at the moment. So myself and Vikesh co-run the company, and Becca White is our designer, who is also a bit of a marketing extraordinaire and does lots of like poster designs and stuff for us. And yeah, it's just the three of us that kind of do the day-to-day running, really.
Exactly. And it's very interesting how you mentioned like our aims as a company and stuff. Due to kind of COVID and stuff, we've had time to actually reflect on what we are as a company, which we didn't before, because we were very much like action-based. We need to do this and this. But it gave us time to like have those clear aims and decide what we are and what we want and things like that.
So, I think we can completely relate to that now, especially like some things. I think we found things out during like COVID. For example, we also, like, as you guys know, we create our own work as well. But for example, outreach became something that we were already passionate about, but that became something clear to us that we wanted to invest more in. I don't know, if there's something else.
Totally. And like through let's say the limitations put on us all through COVID, obviously outreach was something that we could viably do online for us anyway, for our company. And like from that we realized, oh, and then after this we can do this and we could do that and we could do this, and suddenly outreach has become something that we're really, really passionate about. So we're like, oh, I don't know whether we would have found as much passion in it if it weren't for COVID. But on that, it's a perfect little segue into question number 2. So obviously this time's been very, very strange, and no one really asked for it, but is there anything that you guys have found throughout this, either the lockdown period or, you know, prior, or kind of we're easing out of it now, anything throughout this period of time that has stood out for you, either as individuals or as a company, and has kind of kept you motivated and kept you going?
Shall I jump in?
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, no, yeah, it's a great question actually, and it really follows on from what you've both said about like finding this kind of like passion for outreach. Like the one positive thing that I've like really held on to during this whole thing is like how much of a community is out there, and like how much people are willing to help each other out. Like I've been quite fortunate that I've been part of this kind of class and coronavirus group at the Young Vic, which is part of their like Genesis Directors Network, and there's been like 70 to 80 of us that turn out to these meetings and talk about like, you know, how we can like help each other now. So like if there's someone that doesn't have a laptop at home, how do we get them a laptop to their house? And I think that's like the really kind of positive thing that I'll take away from this pandemic, is like everyone is in the industry together. And I think at times we can get so kind of caught up in, oh, look at what they're doing, we're not doing that, or how do we do that? And I think this pandemic has kind of brought it home that like, if we can all just subtly support each other, you know, without kind of putting detriment to anyone's work, I think we can really build and grow as a community, which is great. You know, you just don't feel alone, which is the really nice thing that I've found. Yeah.
I think like I agree with Sam in terms of there's a real community spirit amongst especially independent theatre companies. Want to help each other out. I just wish that that spirit was echoed in the people in power. So I feel like we want to help each other out, but there's only so much we can do. And I wish that our sentiments were echoed by the people who had the power to help us. So yeah, so a bit of a downer, but it's something that needs to be said, I think.
No, I think it's a really valid point. Actually, one thing I would say, because you mentioned, Sam, you mentioned the Young Vic and sort of Genesis program, and there have been a few of the things that I've sort of attended as well. And one thing I will say is that the Young Vic has really stood out beyond so many other sort of institutions as one that is really genuinely trying to, at least if potentially not from the aspects of the youth you're mentioning, but like try to increase the idea, you know, of community, and to sort of put us all on not an equal playing field, because we are all, you know what I mean, that, but to make us sort of realize how much better we are when we're, you know, when we're together and when we're sharing things. But that said, Vic, I completely, I hear what you're saying, and I think that was potentially one of the reasons why, again, it's a really small thing, but one of the reasons why we wanted to sort of set this up, because at least it was us sort of engaging in conversation with other companies, because we're in this sort of weird loophole as smaller companies who are literally sort of at the beginning, but we've been here a while, but we're not sort of up there yet. And then there are, you know, we're in this really weird space, and it's so hard to sort of live, like thrive in these circumstances in a way. I don't know, if there's anything sort of on that.
No, I mean, I totally agree with it all. It's been really lovely to see from Abeille's point of view, but then also like from individual creators' point of view. It's been really nice to see just like, oh, and you know her because, oh, and he knows them, and then, oh, and it's this little network that's happened that like we've been saying, like, you know, when we're allowed to be in the same room again, it'll be nice. It'll be so nice to be like, oh, you were the one who did that live stream. Oh, I watched that, you know, and it will be a period of time that like, hopefully we can look back with some fond memories of at least that side of things. But what you were saying, Vikesh, about the people in power, like totally agree with you. And I can only pray that something will happen soon. But also on that, like, I have found how amazing, like, I've just been saying it to my parents, it's like, oh, I love our community, because if there's something we're not happy with, we say, and we shout about it, and social media is just full of it. And that petition, this is coming out obviously over the weekend, that we're after we film this, but there's a petition at the moment, and it's gone bang, like overnight, with all these signatures, and I love that. I love, even though, like, I wish we weren't in a position where we had to, like, literally
do that
the door for the money. But I love the fact that and there's, like, rumor of people going down to Parliament Square and singing "Do You Hear the People Sing" outside Parliament.
Yeah, I saw that on Twitter. Yeah.
I'll be there. I'll do that. So, yeah, but I love things like that. What a lovely community to be in.
Yeah.
And we're funny. Like, there are some funny things out there that people are saying, funny memes. So
yeah.
On that note, we can repeat it. So
No, definitely.
I know you guys also did an interview with Lynn Gardner on sort of the situation as well, and so we'll definitely maybe at the end mention sort of the title of that if you guys want to pass that on so people can go and read that, because I think you guys, along with other companies, had so many valid things to sort of say. On that note, we'll jump to the next question, which is a big question. So it could be as big or as small as you like, but sort of what dreams do you guys have for Chalkline as a company? And this can be this sort of really in the near future, or like go ahead and like put us into 10 years of Chalkline, you know?
So I think what's something interesting to note is that our last show, the Nobodies, it was kind of taking us to the next step in the company. So what we wanted to do with that show was obviously go to Edinburgh and then tour, have a big like national tour. And that was going to be a massive stepping stone, because we obviously want to go into national touring and the traditional touring as well. And eventually, like, me and Sam as well have been having conversations of what's the next step for the company in terms of its structure, and whether we want to form like a charity, or whether we want to go more towards the commercial model. So those are all discussions that we've been having during this time. And obviously both of them have their pros and cons. But we definitely want to grow, tour nationally, tour internationally. Like one of my personal dreams, and I think Sam shares it with me too, is to take a show to New York. That would be something that I would definitely like love. So in terms of big dreams. And also eventually also moving on to the mid-scale as well. Maybe in the next 5 years, for example. Because we both have big ideas and big dreams and big staging crazy stuff that we want to do, that I think the mid-scale would
staging Vikesh's crazy ideas.
So I think that from my end, that's what I imagine. And also, like, something that we've started from very early on is trying to get people who normally wouldn't access theatre to come, and that's something that I think we want to keep on doing. So like currently we give a certain percentage of free tickets, and like over the years, like we want to double that and then triple that, and keep on getting people who normally wouldn't come to come. Because I think, you know, especially with something like the Vaults, for example, over there you just have people who are theatre people or who are in the industry who come, and that's a really good way to get venues to come to see your show. But the goal is out of the Vaults to then tour, so that you can go to these places and you can access these people who normally wouldn't go to the theatre.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Sam?
Vikesh has touched upon like loads of stuff we've been talking about recently. I think like what's always interesting is you always have your kind of like artistic vision, and then we've kind of had our like organizational vision, which I guess would kind of echo similar stuff to like companies such as like Gecko, who, you know, they have this wonderfully imaginative creative work, and then they also have their kind of core founding in all the outreach they do in schools and all the workshops they deliver and stuff like that. And like we've been having a real think about like, you know, because we kind of want them to go hand in hand, and I think we I've had a real think about how we can kind of develop into an organization as well as a theatre company. How do we kind of, you know, do everything that you want to do under the one name? And I guess that's where like the tricky situation about being a charity, or you know, or do you go down a commercial model so that you can push your shows further? I guess it's just been like a real time of reflection on like what do we want to do, and how do we get there in like 5-10 years, for example, which may take a lot longer now out of the pandemic. But I would say like ultimately I'd love us to have our own hub, our like own community hub where people come and do workshops there, and then our shows are kind of outside of that. I guess that's kind of the grand plan.
Sounds great.
It's great, and it makes me think like, isn't obviously it's so interesting to hear, you know, we're a female made up of we're a company made up of 2 women, you know, and you guys have 63 2 men and 1 woman, but like we share so many sort of sentiments, you know, in common. That's like M's number one sort of thing. She would mention the hub, the B hub that we always talk
I want the rehearsal space that we don't have to try and book. I want our own space. Love the hub. I want the hub.
But I think it's really good. I mean, even if for example, COVID has, you know, potentially stretched that time frame slightly, you know, we have to wait slightly more, or potentially take more time to get there. But that's sort of one of the reasons why, like, it's so. Sometimes it's good to ask yourself, like, what is the dream? Just keep reminding yourself, because it just keeps motivating you further. And like your recipe sounds like it's there, you know, it's definitely there, bringing sort of the artistic vision, which is from what you guys have sort of said, you're spectacular and exciting and innovative, was pairing that up and we're sort of reaching to people. I think that's one of the most, and it's one of the things that I find, we speak about this as well quite a lot, that unfortunately sometimes I think we tend to miss the idea of how can we gain viewers that aren't people that usually go to the theatre. For us, that's the most exciting thing, because it's lovely to have that shared community where you see the same faces. It's great, but ultimately, you know, it's just not enough, even for like your own personal journey, but even for, you know, having people, you know, you want to expose everyone to sort of the work that you do, especially, for example, in your case, where you're discussing, you know, issues that are very real and very relevant, and that people should, you know,
and also, like, I think what's really important is to understand that all of our work so far has been funded by the council. So for us, if we're doing work, it needs to reach people, because that's being funded by people. So it needs to reach everyone. Like, you know, so it's very, like, to me, it's very unfair, this exclusive idea of theatre, because it's being funded by people's money, not just a certain section of society. So I think that's why it's so important as well, because that's what's fair, like that's what's just. Like transport, everyone uses transport, you know, everyone uses education, healthcare, etc., and it's funded by people. So the arts and theatre, etc., it's funded by people, so it should be enjoyed by all people as well.
There you go. Enough said.
Becoming a politician now.
That's great.
So number 1, Vikesh for Prime Minister. Number 2, on that, just to kind of round this up, is there anything that you guys want to mention? You've mentioned a couple of things that you've done, but anything that you want to mention maybe going forward, or stuff that's already out there that people can kind of look to Chalkline for, or look forward to, or anything really.
Yeah, so so the kind of most recent thing we did, which lots of artists took part in, is we did the 2.6 challenge to raise money for charity, which was towards the end of April, I believe. But the videos are still up on our social media channels if people want to look at them. And that was again, we worked with the charity Calm and was raising awareness of young male suicide for that, or just male suicide in general. And that went really well, so that was a positive that we did. Yes, and if anyone did want to read the article with Lynn Gardner, I believe it's titled something along the lines of how indie companies are surviving in the industry. And it's a long read, and they interview, I think it's about 7 or 8
and
different
the quote
companies
is,
who,
I think in the title, there's the quote of "We're like cockroaches."
Yeah, it's hard to
something like that. You can't. It's hard to squash us. Yeah.
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 In terms of what we've got coming up, unfortunately, we're kind of struggling to put stuff out there at the minute just because of personal circumstances and whatnot. But like, we're currently writing a blog post for Common that will be out in the next week or two. And we're hoping off the back of that to host like an online workshop, or like a kind of community forum where people can come and discuss like issues we address in it. So that's something that should hopefully be launched within the next like month. And we're gonna like start opening up like writers call outs and stuff, which won't really have deadlines because at the moment we're all kind of unsure on what we're doing with our time. So we'll be putting out like little bits of stuff, but yeah, our emails are always open, and we always say that if people want to chat or ask anything or pick brains or something, then yeah, the doors are always open.
I think at the moment we're trying to focus as like working class artists ourselves. We're trying to focus on kind of like surviving as individuals. So our kind of company, as we said before, depends on the project grants, which are closed at the moment. So we're trying to survive individually, and also trying to, like, there's that community spirit of a company. So we're trying to help each other out as well as individuals. So like Sam, a few weeks ago, he had an online workshop and they needed more people, and he asked me to do it as well. And like, I have a project which I'm planning next year, like in Malta, which I think hopefully is going to be live. And I know that we need a lighting designer, and Sam's also a lighting designer apart from a director and producer. So I've roped him in to like be in there. So I think as a community, we're also really good friends, and we formed this kind of community between us as a company to try and help each other out as individuals as well.
Yeah. We completely we completely agree. Like, we've spoken, every single company we've spoken to, which is like amazing to hear, has sort of been articulated the same words, and we're in the same boat in the sense that we operate at the moment on our solo initiative, but like in terms of the show, like the show we were planning, like it's not possible to go ahead without any funding. So we're literally in the same boat, and I think that's so important. Like, it's literally about, picking up, lifting, just lift each other, because ultimately that's how people survive. And then from that, people are surviving, and the companies can survive, and then the art can, you know what I mean? And I think that's really crucial. And on that, guys, just so people know where to sort of look, can we just have a rundown of your socials and maybe even your email if you guys want to share that so people can.
Yeah, sure. So on Twitter we're at chalkline_. And then Facebook and Instagram, we're literally just Chalkline Theatre. And then our email address is chalklinetheatre@gmail.com. Or if they can't remember that, there's like a form on our website, www.chalklinetheatre.com. And you can fill out a form on there, which will go straight to our emails as well.
Perfect. That's great. Thank you so much, guys, for spending this time with us. Like, it's been a really interesting conversation. For us, I'm sure people are going to really enjoy sort of hearing what Chopline has to say. And we wish you like all the love and like luck in the world. Let's keep sort of pushing.
Yeah,
I'm sure
same
there's
to
great.
you.
Same
Thank
to
you for
you. Thank
having
you so
us.
much.
No problem at all. We'll speak to you soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.